Hey everyone, it's Gary. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to this week's live Path to Prosperity weekly webinar. Excuse me, let me just double check everything. Now, you should be seeing my screen and my image of me too at the same time, and also hear me. So let me just, I know last week I turned on my webcam and didn't turn on the screen share, and you guys let me know a few minutes into the webinar. I apologize about that. The good news is the recording always has all of it. You don't actually miss anything. But let me just double check and make sure you're okay on your end. So hang on just one second here. Um, can you see my screen in here? My voice. Okay, so I'm going to close this out and open up your question box. Hey Genevieve, how you doing? Good to see you. Hope you're doing okay. Let's see. Let me just check the attendee list here real quick. Okay, Anita, Cedric. Hey Cedric, good to see you, buddy. Hey, let me know when those books arrive, Cedric, and I mean, I guess the easiest thing is just bring them with you that Friday. That'll be next Friday, actually. So I appreciate you and your wife doing that. Eric, good to see you, buddy. Let's see. Jacob, LC, good call the other day. Good to talk to you. Michelle, Pam, Robert Latham, there's a blast from the past. How you doing, buddy? Rolando, Samantha, Sandra, Shannon, good to see you, Shannon. So Shannon, you get the honor of being the hostess with the content for tonight. So Shannon, what I might do is I might actually unmute you. We'll go through, I'm gonna go through your questions detail one at a time. We'll go through that. And then, if you guys are interested, we could even do some role play and stuff like that. Because Shannon has some really good questions, and I'm going to refer to some of the material to answer some of the questions that Shannon has. So thank you for posting the questions, Shannon. I love it when you guys do that because it gives me more insight into what you're needing to hear about more. Some of the webinars were literally just giving you like the launch sequences of marketing campaigns and interview scripts and things like that. All of it, obviously, you need to have, but the little nuances, the things you're experiencing out in the field, those are the things where if you just let me know, we can cover those things in these weekly live strategies because it's unscripted. This is, you can ask anything you want and I'll answer your questions. So this is all about you, and I'm glad to do it for you. So, in any case, let's do this. We've had a few more attendees log in. I think everybody's, we'll go ahead and start here. Looks like most of you are on. So a couple things, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you could always remember the next day to look for the email from Beverly that has the recording of this webinar. And also she's given you updates, the upcoming webinars in April, for example, the next month that is, scheduling additions, scheduling changes, the events. Obviously, we've got the next big 3-day event coming up next weekend. Got a lot of people register, guys. I think it's like 125 people register, so this would be the biggest one yet. And I love them. They're a lot of fun. I get to teach part of it anyways, and I get to see you all again. So that's a wonderful experience. And you guys, man, you'll get to meet people from all over. I mean, in this case, because it's in Southern California, more people will be from Southern California, but there'll be people coming in from Texas and Florida, New Jersey. I forget where all the different registrations were coming from, but in any case, it's a great chance to see everybody again and reconnect. And for the new folks, man, just come prepared to network and commingle and get names and numbers and email addresses and stuff like that. So in any case, always look for the email from Beverly. That's the main part of that. If you are new to the program, you notice that by default you're in mute mode. That's because we can't all 100 of us be live audio at the same time. I will sometimes unmute you and we'll do some role playing and things like that. We may do that tonight, in fact. But also, you can use your question box to post the questions. So let me go to the questions first here and see what we have. If we have any questions from before. Okay. Let's see. Cedric. Oh, books are there. Good, Cedric. Awesome. Hi, Shannon. Okay, awesome. My pleasure. Appreciate you addressing them. You're welcome, Shannon. That's what I'm here for. Your success is my success, right? Okay, quick question from Jacob. Jacob, hey Jacob Repressa, how you doing? Okay, so let's see Jacob's question. Hey Gary, quick question before we start. My city makes renting a room difficult with an hourly fee, and an insurance requirement. Any other ideas where else I can host? Um, oh, I see what you're saying. Uh, you're talking about putting on a workshop. I thought you were talking about renting a room. Okay, your municipal building is going to charge you a fee. Now make sure, guys, this is for everybody here, Jacob and everyone else. When you go in and get a room to put on a workshop, make sure you tell them it's nonprofit. I know you're going to be making money as a result of this, but the purpose of a workshop with your consumers is simply to consult, advise, guide, provide information, provide samples of properties, tools, bring in guest speakers, but you're never actually selling anything there. That's not what you're doing. You're not selling your listings there. That's not what that's about. That's outside the meeting. So you want to make sure you tell them it's nonprofit, because when it's nonprofit, you can also often get the rooms for free. So Jacob, they might have sensed that they believe it's a for-profit event, and that's why they're charging you a fee. However, you can go to your public library. The library in your community would be a great location, because quite frankly, most people associate libraries with learning, with education, knowledge, information. It's also a neutral site. So for me, I've had a lot of success. My initial workshops were all in a public library, completely free. Now, sometimes the libraries, because they're nonprofit, in course libraries they're not as well attended as they were years before the internet. They're still there, still a valuable part of the community. I mean, I use libraries all the time. All kinds of great reference materials there, manuals, all kinds of stuff is there. But what I'm getting at is this: uh, you need to make sure you've conveyed the message to them that your event is nonprofit. That way, you had a greater chance of getting it for free. Let's see some other possibilities, Jacob. Church, mosque, synagogue, temple. If you go somewhere to worship and you're a member of that community, that church community, often they'll let you have one of their rooms for free. I mean, quite frankly, during the week, they're not quite as busy. And as long as you're a member, they don't mind. I mean, they might charge you a small fee, but not much, okay? Usually these things are free. Another possibility would be your real estate office where you have your license. Most owners, I mean, I'm an owner myself, a broker too, and I would love for the agents whatever the building was they had the last time, there was conference rooms upstairs that they would use for their own groups, for their own meetings. So if you got a great training room, talk to your office and see if they'll let you have that on the third Wednesday of every month, for example. Okay. But that's another possibility. I'm trying to think of some others I've seen and heard about. Often restaurants will have a separate room, but the bigger restaurants will have a separate meeting room that they'll give you for free as long as you have a certain order limit, like you're buying drinks or hors d'oeuvres or something like that. Now that itself can be a little pricey. I would rather see you honestly use the nonprofit, like the library, the church, your municipal building, and of course your own office where you have your license. Now they're for profit, but you have your license there, and I would think that in most cases they could let you have that room, their training room, one evening a month. So there's a couple possibilities, Jacob. Hopefully that'll help you out. Let me know. Let's see. The next one is from Kelly. Hi, Kelly. How are you? Good to see you. All right. So Kelly's asking, how do I find a school report from a neighborhood? My office does not generate. Title company is not allowed to offer any more, to do any what? Allowed to anymore. Oh, so Kelly, we, like my marker center, what we do is we have the receptionist build it for the entire marker center and put it on the resource page. Not every marker center does that. You would definitely want to, you got to actually sell it. I mean, so like in class, it's one of the things I go over when I teach the class live. So you have to be able to show them the school report and show them the benefit, and because it benefits all agents, not just investor agents. It benefits even owner occupant agents. It's up to you, the agents in the classrooms, because I'm not there. I teach the class and I go to the next marker center. And they're working. They can call me. I don't mind, man. I'm a KW presenter, obviously, and a broker. myself, so they're welcome to call me. But right when class is done, I usually send that in the night of the after the class, the actual Excel spreadsheet itself. It's from one of the other market centers, but they'll see how they actually build it and what they have to do and the benefit of it. You have to explain the benefit. So if worst case scenario is, we've had a lot of students, Kelly, actually just create their own. Instead of fighting an uphill battle, it's actually not that difficult. It's quite easy. In fact, if you email me separately, Gary at myinvestmentservices.com or Gary Wilson at kw.com, I'll send you the same Excel spreadsheet. Then you can build your own. Then you've got control of it, which was a benefit. Another thing for everybody listening and watching is because we're all part of members of NAR, National Association of Realtors, you actually have access to something called RPR. Right? R is in Ralph, P is in Paul, R is in Ralph. And RPR, you have to play with it. You got to go on to NAR, search it, find it, and then read their tutorial. And it shows you how to build a similar report. Sales data based on school area. It's definitely worth it. The only challenge with RPR is it works really well in some areas, and it doesn't work so well in other areas. Different MLS systems, bunch of different MLS systems. But you might want to try, Kelly, RPR. Okay. If not, just do your own school report. It's definitely worth it. Once you build it, every 90 days you just do an update and import the data. That's all it is. Just the first time you build it takes a while, but after that, it's just basically keeping an update every 90 days. So keep me posted on that too. I'll be glad to help if you need me to. I don't mind. Okay, Jacob's asking, guys. Let's see. Jacob's. I said that, and they wanted my articles of a corporation for the nonprofit I'm affiliated with. You just tell them you're not part of a nonprofit. You're doing this as a community service. You can say I'm an investor and a realtor, and I serve investors in the community. But this is not a sales event. It's simply a place for local investors to gather and communicate and share information and learn. That's the intent of it. That's the way you want to convey it. It's not like you're representing a nonprofit. So we could probably have a strategy call on it if you want, Jacob, or we can even let's get through tonight's content. If we have time, we can go back to that or do that on the next webinar. If you want, we can do that. Let's see, library had study rooms that were small, only can be reserved day of. It's been tough. So look for another library, Jacob. Most libraries, now that might have been a small community. The bigger communities, at least the ones I've been in, they generally have pretty decent sized room. Like when I first started, I was able to go up to 75 people, and it just is what happened. So I started off with 6 people. Then it went up to gradually over the months to 78 actually is what it was. I remember the night. The librarian came up, she said, "You've exceeded our capacity. You got to get another location." Well, I actually did. So Jacob, what I did after that is I actually did get a hotel room. It wasn't that much. I mean, it was I think like $200 for the night. But at that point, I was going well past 100 people, went up to about 200 people. And man, I was getting transactions every single month from that thing. It was well worth the $200. I mean, my gosh, that's like, you can't even do a postcard campaign for $200. And here you're getting live in-person contact. So these prospects are far more valuable than anything you'd ever get from a postcard. So just know over time, as it grows, most of us have had to get hotel rooms. But being this middle of the week, it's in the evening, generally that's not that expensive, Let's see, Jacob, I'll try my nearby KW office then. Yeah, so keep me posted, Jacob. Let me know. Let's see, Raymond, how you doing, Raymond? Okay, Raymond says, I created one. It takes time, but eye-opening. So Raymond, did you create a 5013C or what was the other ones? I think there was a 503B. So let us know, Raymond, what you created, because so Jacob, what Raymond's talking about is you can create your own charitable foundation. It's just like setting up an LLC. I've had a number of students do it over the years. Every state has their own form. You got to fill it out, send it in, and pay whatever it is, $125. But then you get a separate federal ID for that nonprofit. Okay. And then you can do all kinds of neat stuff with that. You can channel funds to it to provide donations to, what would be a good donation for realtors and investors. Um, well, there's a number of them. What's the I'm drawing a blank here. The big one that builds houses all over the place. Can't believe I'm drawing a blank here because I've given them a lot of money. But in any case, there's lots of benefits to creating a charitable foundation that you can use and leverage in your business. And you can actually raise funds. So let's say you do workshops, you say, hey guys, every transaction you get, I'll donate 10% of your net earnings to the foundation in their name, something like that. Good idea, Raymond. Appreciate that, by the way. Let's see. Raymond says, eye-opening. Let me know what you think, Gary. Hey, Raymond. Yeah, if you want to, Raymond created a school report. So yeah, it's not that difficult, guys, to do a school report. Like I said, our agents do this all the time. It's sometimes you just do your own, and then it's your own, and you own it, and then maybe you can charge other people for access to it. Yes, thank you, Robert. It's Habitat for Humanity. So you turn 29, guys, your memory starts to fade. You forget things like how old you are. So in any case, thanks for that, Robert. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see, Rondo. Some banks offer meeting rooms. Use criteria, number of people varies. Yeah, I've seen that before too. Even title companies often will have rooms you can use. Lenders, you can even partner with an insurance agent, like an insurance broker, and because to them they're seeing business. I mean, you're bringing people in there buying properties who need property insurance. So that works. The banks, they want loans. You bring people in, they're going to be buying properties. They need loans. So there's lots of other possibilities, and I appreciate you guys bringing those up, by the way. Okay, let's see. I think we're caught up on the questions. Okay, so let's do this. Let me go to Shannon's questions. So hang on one second. And here we go again. Thanks, Shannon Goldsmith from Beverly Hills. I was just back in your office. I think that was last week, in fact. I went down to, I think it's called Anza, something like that, to have dinner. Great restaurant. I love that place. Okay, so guys, I'm going to pull my panel over so I can see all of Shannon's questions, and I'm going to cover these in order. Okay, and we'll come up with examples, and I'll go refer to material that'll help you. So, Gary, would love to have clarity on these questions during the next webinar. Okay, question number one is, how do you address the topic of exclusivity when working with new investor client prospects? So what she's referring to is, how do we get them under agreement, an agency agreement to work with you to ensure that you're going to get paid commissions from your effort and your services. And then she follows up with, what does a typical conversation sound like? Any common objection responses you can share with us? Okay, let's cover this one step at a time. The first things first, Shannon, and for everyone here, is it all begins with our marketing. So when we do targeted marketing, remember, when we work with investors, we don't do broadcast marketing. We're not sending out postcards, even like the booklet, the letter, all those things you've learned in class. Those are called direct response marketing techniques, but we don't mass market them. We don't send them to the the masses. We only send them to pre-selected recipients. Okay, and here's where the answer to your question already begins. In our marketing, the material that we send and the people we send it to, those two factors alone will do a lot of pre-selection for you. Okay, like pre-screening. So we already know the groups of people who are most likely to want to invest. Okay, I went over those all in class when I taught you in class. So we know that those folks are generally more business oriented and more likely to want to invest because they typically own practices and they want to leverage the income from their practice and buy income producing assets. It's a great combination. And then those income producing assets, i.e. rental properties, for example, bring them passive cash flow that they can then bring them a comfort, like a sense of a cushion, financial cushion, so that they can then be more aggressive growing their practice. So you have business and investment at the same time. Now, because they're business minded, they're going to be more responsive and more appreciative of the tools that you show them. So like Jacob talking about the school report, that's actually not intended to keep to yourself. It's actually intended for you to share with your clients, because what that'll do is show them data to help them make decisions. So instead of you trying to persuade them where they should buy a rental or flip a home, you use data to drive their decision process. Well, when you do that, it increases your credibility, okay? So they're more likely to be loyal. So Shannon, this is where I'm heading to. Because of the way you market and you give them meaningful tools, information, inventory, it builds more loyalty right from the start. So when you go to ask for an agency agreement, it's easier to get positive responses. In other words, you're not like door knocking, cold calling, and sending out postcards. That's like everybody else. So you're already separating yourself away from the herd from the very first moment you contact him with something like the booklet. Okay. Now, let me step through this so you understand the logic and the mindset. So let's say they respond to you and they call you and they say, "Hey, I received your booklet. I'm interested in investing. I'm an accountant. I'm a dentist. I'm an engineer, whatever the case is." Um, and those folks are generally not interested in crappy properties. They're not interested in all that uh, no money down owner financing stuff. They understand that that just doesn't work well right now. In fact, it doesn't work well in most cases. People do it. I used to do it. It does work, just very, very minimally. So, but in any case, they're more interested in better properties right off the bat. They take generally a sense of pride in their properties. Okay. They don't want all the headaches with all the lower down properties. They want the better properties with fewer headaches. So all in, you're creating this circumstance that's far more favorable to building a exclusive arrangement. Now, here's what happens when they call you. Typically, they're going to leave a message because most of us we're busy. People have to leave a voicemail. Okay, I'm okay with that because it gives me an opportunity to hear their voice in a voicemail and hear what they're saying to me. Because then when I call them, I've got a starting point. I'm not answering cold. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they want. I'd rather start with a warm conversation. So in any case, that first conversation is either going to be one of two things. I'm either going to do the interview right there on that first call, or I'll set up an appointment to do an interview. The point is Shannon and everyone else, is you want to make sure you get an appointment with these folks. And the good news with investors, it doesn't have to be in person. It can be, but you're going to have more success doing a phone interview because they're busy, you're busy. They'll do when they're in the car on the way home. They'll do it in between patients at their practice. They'll do it in the evening after dinner. The point is most of my investment interviews, most of them, the vast majority, were actually over the phone. Okay, so if you go to your material in module 2, I don't think I have that with me here. So in module 2, Shannon, and for everybody, you notice there's a 12-step process to working with flippers and a 12-step process to working with landlords buying rentals. They're very similar. It's just the middle piece is what's different. How do you actually go through the analysis of the properties? But in any case, back to that 12-step process. If you notice right up top, it talks about them sending you an email with information. So here's what I do. This is where the rubber hits the road here for you. When they call me up and I'm doing the interview, I first build rapport. So please write that down. You always want to build rapport first. Okay. Hi, how are you? I hear children in the background. That's great. How many children do you have? Be careful what you ask here because there's actually protected classes. You don't want to ask somebody out of the blue, how many children do you have if you don't know they have children, because that's a protected class. But if you hear children, that's okay to ask the question because obviously there's children there. Or they might say, "Oh, 3, and we just got back from soccer practice." Well, you can use that to just basically build rapport, have a conversation. Not for long, just a few basic sentences, okay? Building rapport opens them up to being more open to suggestion and basically more agreeable to anything you want to do. So what I do then is I'm assuming at this point they've received something from me. Remember, I send out the booklet, I send out the letter, whatever the case is. So because when I do my marketing, all of my calls come from those marketing campaigns. I don't really take cold calls from other people. They go through a receptionist and they get screened there because I don't want the tire kickers and the no money down people taking up my time. So The calls I get are directly from the direct response marketing. So they call you up. In the interview, you build rapport right away. As soon as you feel like you've got some rapport, the next step is this: you want to say, "Hey, did you respond to the booklet I sent you?" Or they may even have told you in their voicemail, "I already got your booklet." Well, now you've got something to start with. Great, I'm glad you got the booklet. Let's talk about some of the properties in that booklet. Did you see anything in those properties that looked appealing to you? It looked like something you would like to have for yourself. Now, bear in mind, when you do the booklet, guys, there's different versions of the booklet. One version is for showing rentals for people who are interested in buying rentals. Another version is for flipping for people who mostly are likely to want to flip homes. And you'll learn that over time. I can tell you, for example, um, dentists, chiropractors are busy, accountants are busy. They generally want to do rentals. They don't have time to be dealing with flips. I'm not saying that they won't do flips. I'm just saying they'll lean more towards the rentals. So I would give them a booklet full of rental properties, okay? Active, under contract, and sold. Active, pending, sold. Two of each type. Well, the flippers, I'll load that thing full of examples of flips from the area. That's going to be like your teachers, for example, okay? Some groups will do both. I mean, I know plenty of firemen and policemen who have flipped homes, but they do like rentals. I know pilots who like rentals, but they'll do flips. So the point is you want to you know build the booklet in a way that appeals to them based on what we already know about that demographic. In any case, here's what I'm getting at. So you're going to take them through this process of determining what it is they want, what their wants and needs are, by giving them examples. So let's say, hey, I like the fourplex on page 7. You know, I used to own a duplex. It was great, but when somebody moved out, it was only half the income coming in. I like to have an idea of a fourplex because if somebody moves out, I've still got 3 rents coming in, and I actually would agree with that. You know, so in any case, now you're getting down to more detailed business-like conversation. And here's what's going to happen. You know, once you realize they're saying things like, "Yes, I want to do this," that's your cue to move forward. And here's what you do when you move forward. You want to qualify them. Okay. So once you determine what it is they want or need, fourplex, for example, you want to ask these questions, and you want to write these down, guys. Write these questions down. Ask them, what do they have in savings? Okay. Now remember, you wouldn't do this unless you built rapport, because you're going to offend them if you don't build rapport first. So build rapport, talk about some of the properties, get them to commit, engage mentally, and then you ask them, and here's what you say to them. You say, look, this is great. I'm glad to help you. This is what I do. I'm a professional. I focus on investors. I'm certified. All of you are for an investor agent program. You're certified anyways as a result of the program. So you say, I'm glad to help you. Now, in order for me to help you, I need to qualify you, because when I work with other owners or other agents, I need to prove to them, I need to confirm that I've qualified you. So would you please share with me, what do you have in savings that you can have access to? Don't say how much money do you have. Just say, what do you have in savings? It's the same message, but it's a softer delivery. I also ask them, do they have an available line of credit? Okay. Do they have an available line of credit? Now, that tells me a number of things. Number one is, if they have a line of credit and it's available, remember, available means there's available funds on there. That tells me, number one, they can get pre-approved from a bank because they've already got pre-approved for a line of credit. Number one. Number two is they're probably disciplined because they haven't spent everything in the line of credit. They've got some available, which means they can use it to put down payments on properties. Okay. Third question is, ask them, what is their credit score? Don't ask them, don't say, do you know what your credit score is? Say, hey, by the way, what is your credit score? Okay. Now, if they ask you, if they say, well, why do you need that? Say, because we go forward, the investing business, it's different than the owner-occupied business. We need to demonstrate that you're qualified in advance, or the other parties they're not going to take you seriously. I've got to either tell them that I verified your information and be truthful about it, or either to provide information to me, or both. So that's what you do. Now, I know somebody who knows their credit score is, they're good custodians with their credit. they got cash, they got a line of credit, they got a good credit score. What I'm looking for is 2 of the 3 of those being positive at a minimum. So maybe they got cash, they got credit, and their credit score is not that high. I'm okay with that. I can still work with them. Or if they've got, good credit score, no line of credit, but they got cash, I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is if they have no cash, have no available line of credit, and they don't have a good credit score. Right away, I'm not going to continue with them. I'll put them on a drip campaign, and I'll introduce them to a credit repair person to show them how to improve their credit. Okay, and I'll work with them when the time's right. But for right now, I'm focusing on ready, willing, and able buyers like right now. So you're determining timing, motivation, readiness, willingness, and ability. You might want to write that down. This is what you're doing in the interview, determining timing, motivation, readiness, willingness, ability. So readiness and ability has to do with the money. Timing, motivation, and willingness is all about their mindset. So let me do a quick pause here. I'm still not done with this question. Awesome question and the long answer, but let me just check and see if I got any questions so far on the content. Okay, so we're okay on questions. So back to this. Let me reduce my panel. Now, this is the critical part, guys. Once you've had the interview with them and you've gathered your information, here's what you do. Remember, there's a bus. You're the driver of the bus. You're in control, and your prospect is going to be sitting on a seat on the bus. You determine what seat that is based on readiness, willingness, ability, timing, motivation, okay? If they're all 5, they move up to the front of the bus. And here's what you do. Say, good, looks like this is going to work out great for you. I'm looking forward to serving you in this role. In order to do that, would you please email me with a recap of our conversation in your own words? This is you speaking to the prospect. I'll repeat that. Would you please email me with a recap of our conversation in your own words? Now, I know some of you are shaking your heads up and down, some are going sideways. Here's the explanation. The purpose is twofold. Number one is we want to make sure their interpretation of our conversation, that we're in sync with that we're of the same mind, okay? Make sure we understand their needs and wants from their perspective, okay? And then we can tweak and correct things as necessary based on that response. But here's the bigger reason. Check this out. When someone goes through this effort to read your booklet, for example, in this case, let's just assume you sent the booklet, and they took the time to call you, and they took the time to go through the interview process. Now, to them, it's a conversation. To us, it's an interview. To them, it's a conversation. And then they follow up with an email. What does that tell you about that person? So go ahead and type that in. Let me just do a quick quiz here. Tell me, what do you think that tells you about that person when they've gone through these series of steps to work with you, and they actually follow up with the email? So tell me what you think that is. And I'll give you a quick second to type in the answer. Okay, the answers are pouring in. You got it, Shannon. Yep. Yeah, I'm seeing some good answers here, guys. Okay. Shannon hit the first one right on the nail on the head. That's commitment. So when they follow up with your instruction, they're following your instruction. Remember, you're the driver of the bus. You're in control of the bus. They're willing to relinquish that control. They're recognizing you as the driver of the bus, and they're willing to commit with you. That little small commitment, that email, is a good indicator to you that later on, when it comes time to actually making offers like big commitments, they're more likely to actually commit. Remember the old saying, small commitments lead to big commitments, okay? The other thing too is, let's see what else you're typing in here. You guys are awesome tonight, man. Yeah. Tahira, yeah, tells me that they're serious about and ready to make a move. Yeah, Tahira, they're action takers. They've actually taken action. They had to get on the computer and type this email. They're action takers. And let's see if you guys get the other one. Let's see, Eric, this is from Eric. Hey, Eric, good to see you. That shows that they are just as committed to you as you are to them. Perfect. Okay, and here's somebody. All right, so we got the third one. The third one is actually called engagement. They're engaging with you at a peer-to-peer level. You've demonstrated authority by using the right kind of marketing, knowledge and skill, and you've shown commitment to them. instead of it being like this, the indentured servant type relationship, which was what most agents do with the owner occupants, don't ever play that game. We've created that environment ourselves where people treat us like we're on demand 24/7. You don't have to do that with investors. This entire process is all to condition your prospects to work with you where you're a peer of theirs. You're not above them, you're not below them, you're working together as a team to help them build wealth and income. So excellent, excellent answers. So now here's what I do. So we're still answering Shannon's questions here. When they email me back, I know those are the ones I'm going to work with. The ones that do not email me back, I learned a long time ago to not chase them down. It's just like high school dating. You know what? If you play hard to get for a little bit, but eventually you realize, okay, they actually mean it. Okay, it goes both ways, by the way. So in any case, back to this. If they didn't follow that simple instruction, chances are you're going to have a hard time working with them. So don't kill yourself and beat yourself up. The ones that respond to you, here's what you do, and respond right away. Like, don't wait. Just that night, respond. Say, wonderful. We're in sync with each other. I'm looking forward to serving you. Here's my agency agreement. Please sign this and return to me. Now, what you can do, Shannon, at this point is have the agency agreement pre-filled, okay? And in there, it gives them the benefits anyways, but you can kind of summarize the benefits saying, what this does is this obligates me legally and contractually to serve you and provide you confidentiality, which is important in real estate transactions. Otherwise, they're a consumer. See, as a consumer, you owe them fairness and honesty, but you don't owe them confidentiality. Remember, you need them to give you confidential information about themselves. If they're not under agency agreement, you can share that with other people, okay? So they get confidentiality. They also get your commitment to work with them and ensure that they actually get transactions, okay? Because here's the other option. If you don't have this agency agreement and they told you they're working with 5 other people, I wouldn't work with them, and here's why. It's the same thing with relationships. I mean, would you have somebody to marry you if they told you they were dating 5 other people? I mean, maybe in today's world, I don't know. But the reality is you want an exclusive relationship because you deserve it. You're worthy and you're valuable. All right. And then so in any case, those are the major big benefits. But in any case, put it in, Shannon, as if it's an assumption that they're going to sign it and return it to you. Say, here's my agency agreement. Please sign and return to me. And I'm going to start doing searches for you starting right now. Please send this so I can start doing searches right now. Okay. And generally speaking, you'll get that back. If somebody wants to give you an objection, so let's talk about this. Let's go to Shannon's next question. So Shannon, does that first part help you, painting that scenario, help you understand how we arrive at this juncture in the relationship? If you could let me know that would be great. In the meantime, I'll get to the second part of the question, which is, what does a typical conversation sound like? Well, we kind of just covered that. So any common objections, responses you can share with us. So yeah, the one I kind of just gave is the most common. And you'll know if you're working with a new investor or somebody who's already been to some other kind of training, because they're conditioned to not really respect us for what we know and do, because most agents don't know this stuff. Most agents are not investor agents, they're owner occupant agents. So that's a big selling feature for you, is you're trained specifically to work with investors. So in any case, you might, from some of the prospects, get the objection, well, I'm working with 4 or 5 other agents. And here's what I would say. I would say, well, I appreciate that. I know that other gurus teach their clients how to do that because that's the way most agents behave, but I don't do that. I'm a professional. This is what I do, how I make my money. I work specifically with investors. I'm trained to work with you. I'm certified. And as a result of that, I value my time more highly. And I would prefer to work for somebody 100% with 100% confidence that I'm going to earn commissions as a result. If you want 20% of my time, I'm not going to do that. I want you want 100% of my time, and you deserve that. And professional relationship in this situation requires me to also expect the same from you. And that's just how I do it. And I don't make exceptions. I'm not mean about it. I say, if you want to do this, you want to work with a professionally trained investor agent who's certified to work with you, exclusively, this is how we do that. Otherwise, please feel free to use all those other agents, and we wish you all the luck in the world. And Shannon, that's exactly what you say, okay? It positions you in a higher level of authority, and you do the hand gesture, right? Let them work with all the other people, and good luck to them, and mean that sincerely, okay? So that's a awesome question. Okay. Okay, so let me check for questions real quick before we go to number 2. Let's see. This is okay. One more, Shannon. Okay, they're showing they're willing to do the work. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Tremendously so much. Thank you. This is awesome. I love it. Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate the positive feedback. Okay, so let's go to the second question. Okay, module 1, you suggested setting a minimum commission of 3% of the median price property for your area. So when I did that, Shannon, that's because I think that when we developed the program, I was one of the developers. They paid me a consulting fee to help them develop this program. The subject area was an area that was at the time, I think the average price was like 115,000, something like that. So what I did is I took the average commission, which at the time was like $3,000 or $4,000 or something. And what I told my students is if you're ever working on properties and the average property price is below the average for the area, like maybe they're getting foreclosures for whatever, 60, 70,000 bucks, which you can still do in like places like Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Georgia. There's all kinds of areas around the country you can still do it. And what I want to do is have my agents protect themselves with a minimum commission. So the interesting about California, which was where most of us are right now, is you're never going to have anything that low. I mean, I would be shocked. I mean, there's some areas that are, like Bakersfield, for example, that are lower priced than LA. Palmdale, Victorville. When you're going way far out there, even Redlands is half or less of what LA is, but Redlands is still a couple hours out to the east. Temecula. There's all those areas, the Covina, Corona, right? Raymond's from one of those areas, but I don't think it's low enough where you've got to impose a minimum commission. What minimum commission does is this. You don't actually state it as a percentage, you state it as a flat fee, like a bottom line or a basement level. So in other words, let's say you want to earn minimum $3,000. On the agency of form that I just talked about a moment ago that you send to these now soon-to-be clients, in there you would have a minimum commission that guarantees no matter what happens, you at a minimum earn $3,000 in that example. Now you can do that in any area. I just don't think in areas like LA it's really going to be necessary. But you can do that. You can say my minimum's 10,000, and believe it or not, people won't even bat an eyelash if they've gotten to that point where they're willing to sign the form, and they're going to be okay. It's the cost of doing business. It's part of the cost of the project, for example. I'm just saying, that's more applicable in the lower priced areas. So right in there, we would have that minimum in there. It's commensurate with the area. But again, I mean, heck, there's, a lot of the areas around the greater LA Metroplex, my gosh, where was I today? Studio City, well over $1 million. Calabasas, right around the $1 million mark. Parts of Hollywood, Beverly Hills, all the beach areas, they're all $1 million areas. You don't have to worry about minimum commission, but that's how it works. So in any case, as far as in the next part of the question, Shannon, it sounds like investment property commissions are sometimes often structured differently from owner occupied. That sometimes they are, Shannon. So just to give you some ideas here, in most cases, the seller is paying the commission. Okay. However, when you move into the bigger properties, bigger commercial properties, some commercial brokers, when they list the property, they're only accounting for the listing side commission. They're not accounting for the buy side commission. So this is another reason why you want to have a buyer's agency agreement, okay, with your clients, because if the seller is only going to pay the listing agent commission, you're not going to work for free. Obviously, you got to protect yourself. So you can explain that to your clients and say, look, every now and then there's a broker who will list a property, they only account for their commission. That means when we make the offer, we have to adjust the offer price to cover the buyer side commission. And that's what this whole formula is about. So Shannon, you'll see that sometimes. Another thing you'll see is this is in negotiating. Like for example, how many of you ever had a multiple offer scenario or highest and best scenario? Just type in if you've ever had one of those multiple offer deals or highest and best scenarios. I'll show you what to do. Okay. If you think about it, on the typical settlement sheet on a closing, remember the seller typically does pay the full commission, and then of that commission, it goes to the listing broker. Then they pay half of that out to the buyer side, the buyer's agent. Okay. What you can do in negotiating is this. This is one of our old favorite techniques to get a deal over the finish line. Let's say you're within a few percentage points. In other words, you're dealing with a $500,000 property, and you're within, say, 1%, which is $5,000. Okay, 2% will be $10,000, 3% will be $15,000. That's on a $500,000 property with a 3% commission. Okay, so let's say you're negotiating and they're within 1 or 2 percentage points of each other on agreement. One of the best tricks you can ever learn is this. I hate to say the word trick. It's a strategy. Is say this. Let's say you're the buyer's agent. Rewrite the offer, and in the offer, you're going to tell them that your buyer is going to pay the seller's expenses for the closing, including commission, transfer taxes, and there's other things like prorations, for example. What you want to do is calculate those before you do this. Obviously, calculate what that is. Okay, you don't want to be guessing at this. You want to calculate what it is, and then what you do is your client, your buyer in this example, is going to be in a certain tax bracket, 15%, 25%. Let's say they're in a 25% tax bracket. What you're doing is you're adjusting the price. You're going to actually lower the offer price, but have your buyer pay those sellers' costs. So the net to the seller is the same as if the seller got the price they wanted. You're going to do the actual math on this ahead of time. So you adjust the price so that the seller gets what they want, right? Without having to pay these closing costs. You're going to net the price down so that they're if they were to pay the closing costs, they're getting this dollar amount. Okay. Now what happens is the buyer is going to pay those closing costs. On the buyer side, those are expenses, and at tax time, the buyer gets to write those off as expenses and get 25% of those back. So really, what you're trying to do is if your buyer can recoup 25% of those costs, and let's say, for example, they're 3% off and those costs come up to $15,000, and your buyer can get $3,750 back at tax time, and that's how far off they were, you got yourself a deal. You follow what I'm saying here, guys? It's an awesome strategy. Just essentially you're lowering the price to the degree that your buyer can absorb those closing costs, but just far enough that gives the seller what they want. So they close the gap, and your buyer gets the money back at tax time to recompensate themselves for closing the gap. Right? That's what that's all about. What I'm getting at is you can structure that commission structure to do that, Shannon, on your settlement sheet. Okay. There's other things you can do. Did you know you can actually receive your commission in the form of a note? Okay. In other words, let's say they're close on a deal, and you can say, look, Mr. Seller, let's say you're the listing agent. You can say, look, you're really close on this deal. I know you need so much money to pay off whatever you're trying to pay off. I get that. I want to take my commission in the form of a note, but what you do is this. You make it a higher commission, okay, so that the note's worth more money, and then you can, on the secondary market, sell the note. You got to take a hit on the price because nobody's going to buy a note unless it's at a discount. So you raise your commission to, say, 10% instead of 6%, and then you go out there. Let's say that comes out to $60,000. 6% will be $60,000. Let's say it's $1 million deal. 10% will be $100,000. What you do is you go out there and you sell the note for $60,000. So you get the original 6% back you wanted, and the person who bought the note is going to get an additional $400,000 because the note was for 10% of the $1 million sales price. That's another thing you can do. You can keep the note, just do it at the commission rate plus an extra percentage point or two because you're now a lender, and you deserve to make more money than your commission because you're offering that service. And then you get paid over time. And the benefit to you is you're not getting paid all at once; you get paid over time. So in any case, lots of things you can do, Shannon. Those are just some brief examples. But let me go back to the question. Okay, we talked about that. Commission arrangements. Okay. Do sellers still pay both sides of the commission? Again, I think we just talked about that. Does the investor pay any portion of it? We talked about that. If you could please review how commission works with these types of deals. So we gave a couple of examples there, Shannon. So let me go back to the question box and see if anybody has extra questions. Genius strategy. And we got others, Shannon, too. Here's another thing you can do, guys. Let's say you're close on negotiating and you're working with you're on the buyer side and your buyer has a lot of cash. They're not maybe using it all, but they got extra cash. What you can do is you say, look, Mr. Buyer, we're really close here. We're like a few $1,000s off, maybe 1 percentage point off or off. What you can do is to offer more security to the seller is don't change the offering price, but raise the level of the down payment, raise the earnest money deposit, which it looks like more risk to your buyer. But if they know they want the property and this property is a good deal, quite frankly, I've made all cash offers. I had purchases, guys, where my entire earnest money deposit check, the hand money check, was the entire price of the property, and I got the deal. It was literally half off. I said, look, I want the property. You want to sell it? This is what it's worth to me. I want to put myself at 100% risk and put you at ease by putting the entire $500,000 in closing escrow right now. That's the earnest money deposit, 100% total risk to me. I promise you, we'll get a lot more sellers will say, I'll take that deal because 500,000 guaranteed is a lot better than 550,000 not guaranteed, right? So in other words, what I'm saying is you can raise the hand money deposit to reduce the risk for the seller and give them more certainty that their deal is going to actually close. That's another kind of a quick strategy you can use. Okay, let me go back to the third question here. All right, why do investors want to flip in a declining economy? I understand there may be inventory and more deals out there, but doesn't it mean that profits are shrinking from day one because values are going down? Okay, yeah, awesome question, Shannon. So in most cases, I will tell you, just fundamentally speaking, guys, I only flip when I know I'm in a recovering market. In other words, prices are going back up. But we're at the peak of a market, like right now. I don't know this for a fact. I'm just telling you, my belief is we're at or nearing the peak of the market. It's just based on my experience. I've been doing this for 33 years. I've seen two minor recessions and 3 minor recessions and 1 big recession. You've all seen the big recession because that was just 2007 through 11. But in any case, that recession, by the way, was real estate driven. That's very unique. Most recessions are not driven by real estate. They're driven by other factors like good old-fashioned overheating, right? That was a real estate driven recession, and anybody flipping in that recession was losing their shirt. Thank the Lord, my last flip was July of 2007, and I'd been through other recessions. I thought, I'm not going to flip for the time being. Man, at the end of August, the bottom dropped out, and it was fast. I mean, within 3 months, it was crazy. So in normal recessions, though, real estate is more of like just a lagging commodity. It just kind of tags along with the economy, but it doesn't really lose much value. It just goes down a little bit. And volume slows, days on market increases. Volume. In inventory increases, days on market increases, and volume kind of drags out. But here's what I'm getting at. Here's some great strategies for people who want to keep flipping. Let's say we know we're in a declining economy, but it's a gradual, just a good old-fashioned run-of-the-mill recession. Here's what I'm getting at, Shannon. So the seller can get the buyer can buy a property at a discount in a declining market. The economy is declining. If you look for properties that are mismanaged, had deferred maintenance, they're in bankruptcy, foreclosure, landlord-tenant evictions, divorce, probate. We will look for those properties to get a property at a discount. But here's the strategy for the exit strategy. Yes, we would remodel it, but when we go to sell it, instead of selling it on the open market like we're trying to cash out like we would do a normal flip, in a declining economy, the lenders are tightening up on the lending. So people need other sources of financing because it's harder to get traditional mortgages in a declining economy. So what we do is we're offered, for example, through like a lease option, we'll sell to a prospective buyer who wants to buy a house, but they don't have all the money for a down payment, or they don't have the right credit right now. We would have them give us what's called an option fee. They would pay us an option fee to buy the right or the option to buy the property at a future date, preferably like next year. So they're not actually buying the property, they're literally buying, it's a legal document called an option document. They're purchasing the option to purchase the property at a later date. They also enter into a lease agreement. They're going to lease the property from us, okay? Usually at a rental rate that's higher than normal rates, because we're basically going to be their creditor. Over the year, we're going to help them build their credit because they're going to pay us every month. We're going to document it. At the same time, we're locking in the price at today's market value. You follow what I'm saying? So at the end of the year, they've saved up some money. They've increased their credit report or credit rating. Now they can qualify for a bank loan. And we've locked into a price that was a year before. So other thing about lease option is you can often get your full asking price because people feel like they need to use that strategy to buy that property. Okay. So it's a great extra strategy. Another great extra strategy in a declining market is we know that in a declining market, fewer people buy homes and those people become renters. So what we can do is this: we can enter into a long-term lease, okay, not a lease option, just straight old-fashioned lease, and lock them in for 3 years. Because generally most recessions are over in 18 months. That's like the average. Well, in 3 years, let's say it declines 3% in 18 months. Typically, the recovery, guys, is faster than the decline. Remember that usually declines are gradual and recoveries are faster. You'll see, just look at the history of recessions. So what we're getting at is 3 years goes by, you've had a long-term tenant who's basically, usually going to stay longer anyways. They're better tenants because they signed a long-term lease. Well, the value is recuperated in 3 years. Then when they move, you can then put the house on the market and sell for profit. So what I'm getting at is whenever there's adversity, there's always opportunity. And these are creative strategies. Most of you have the book, it's called Massive Passive Cash Flow Method. In there, there's a segment called Creative Purchasing Techniques, okay? So in here are 20, 30 some odd techniques I give you on how to purchase properties creatively. If you don't have the book, we've got a whole shipment of them coming to the Anaheim event. And Cedric Farrell, God bless you, from Mission Viejo Market Centers, turned into a pretty good friend of mine. All the books went to his house because I'm constantly changing hotels. And we're doing a book. I'm going to do a book signing that Friday night, first night of the event. So you'll get this big, massive book. It's like 500 pages long or something. And I'm going to autograph them for you guys right there on the spot. And you'll have all of this stuff, creative investing techniques. That's one of the big chapters in the book. It's all in there, guys. Every single thing is in there. So in any case, let me go back to Shannon's questions. Let me reduce my panel just to make sure because we're getting close on time here. By golly, Shannon, I think I got it all covered, and we did it in time. How about that? Let me go to the questions, guys, and make sure we're okay there. Hang on one second. This is from Abby. Abby, how you doing, sweetheart? My gosh, I haven't seen you in so long. Hey, Abby, I'm coming back to Boston in July and August. So look for me. I'll be teaching at your Market Center. And by the way, we're doing a 3-day event in Boston. Good for you. Okay, so Abby's asking, okay, it seems like that many Chinese families here in Boston organize a group as cash buyer to purchase single family and flip into multifamily, then sell for profit. Would you mind sharing whether you heard of this and what's your thought? Yes, I have, and I've actually done it myself, Abby. So You have to look at the zoning and occupancy rules for the area. I mean, you can take a 4-unit building and turn it into 3-unit without any problem at all. You can always go down in occupancy. But to go up in occupancy, you've got to be careful about the zoning and occupancy rules, because if you violate them and they find out at the time of purchase that you bought a single family home, now you're selling a 4-unit building, you turned it into a 4-unit, and you didn't go through proper zoning and occupancy, they're going to shut that down cold. Believe me, it's all part of the title process now. It used to be you could get away with that kind of thing. Not anymore. The title searchers are looking for this stuff, and if they find it, they'll shut it down. Now, what is possible often is to turn a single into a duplex, or a duplex into a triplex, or a triplex into a fourplex, because you're only adding 1 unit, and usually you're within the zoning rules. You got to look for the occupancy rules for residential are the same in every jurisdiction in the country. Commercial has different codes all over the place. In most cases, we're dealing with residential here. All right. But what I'm getting at is it's a great strategy, because if you think about it, a duplex bringing in 2 rents combined is generally going to be greater than 1 rent on a single family home. And that's what people are doing to increase value, because getting 2 rents combined are greater than the 1 rent from a single family. So the property to an investor is worth more money. Okay. Another thing you can do, Abby, is this, and for everybody listening, is do what's called non-medical assisted living. The rules are far more lenient on that. You don't have to get screened and all that kind of stuff for medical facilities, because it's not a medical facility. It's a non-medical assisted living facility, generally for emerging retirees. Okay. So you can rent out the individual rooms way more than you can rent out the entire house for. Another thing, of course, is Airbnb. It's real big. And by the way, at the Anaheim 3-day event, one of our mastermind students and I are jointly developing an Airbnb program for all you guys. Okay, so that's another strategy, Abby. So yes, there's a number of ways to go about this. So in any case, guys, unfortunately, I've got to jump on Facebook Live. I'm about 2 minutes behind to do a Facebook Live presentation, but this was an awesome session. I mean, see what I mean, guys? When you feed me with these questions, we can dig into nitty-gritty detail to help you guys out. Otherwise, we're going through the content, which we can all do already. So I would rather serve you directly and give you precisely what you need. So thanks to Shannon for the suggestions and the questions. Great topic, great subject. And God bless you guys. Okay. Oops, something just came in here. Hang on 1 second, guys. This is from, let's see, that was Abby's. This is Genevieve. Hi, Genevieve. Good to see you from Montreal. Okay, all good for me. Thank you, Gary. Lots has been happening since we last spoke. We'll call soon. P.S. I'm getting ready for my conference talk that I'll be giving at the University of Montreal for the student TV newspaper. Man, Genevieve, that's like, I'm so glad, music to my ears. So set up a strategy call, keep me posted, or just text me whenever you're ready. We'll go over things, okay? And from Shannon, this was amazing and so helpful. Thank you for all you do, Gary. You're welcome, Shannon. I appreciate your positive feedback too, but that feeds me. That's my mojo. So thank you. Rolando, you're welcome, Rolando. Finally, you come back to Boston. I know it takes like 2 years to go back to a region, so that's why I tell people, boy, jump in when you can, guys, because it takes like 2 years to go back to a region. So anyways, God bless you all. Thank you for participating. We will see you next week, by the way, which will be, my gosh, it's all Wednesday. So all the webinars in April are Wednesdays. How about that? That's unique. Usually they're scattered around the week. So I'll see you next Wednesday. Same bad time, same bad channel, different town. I'll be in Toronto, actually. All right, you guys take care of yourselves. God bless you. And we'll see if we're going to be at the 3-day event. Come prepared, man. Come prepared. You're not going to be the same person you were when you leave that you were when you got there. Okay, take care. God bless. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.